Hello, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 2, Solving Problems with Multiplication and Division, Lesson 9. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to do multiplication of decimals. Okay, so you learned how to do such multiplication by thinking about the decimals as if the numbers as if the decimal was not there. So you multiply integers of the calculation, and then when you finished, you introduced the decimal into your answer by thinking about how much of the integers, whether you had, they were divided by the original numbers you were given, in relation to the integers you did your calculation with, whether they were being divided by 10, by 100, and then you introduce that fact into your answer. So in today's lesson, you're going to learn how to use formal written methods to divide integers. It's a very interesting lesson and a very fundamental skill you need to know in your study of maths. Okay, now I would like you to, help us grow our mission of educating the global population of children, regardless of their economic situation. To help us do that, I ask you the favor to like the video, share the video with those you think would benefit, subscribe to the channel, and then click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you will be notified. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to do the retrieval practice questions in 3 minutes. All right, assuming you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So for the first one, you were asked to work out the missing numbers. So remember, we learned that you can express a fraction as division, and that's what is happening here. So 2 over 5 as a fraction is same thing as 2 divided by 5, which is 0.4. So I'm sure you recognize this fraction and the equivalent decimal. 3 divided by 8 expressed as a division is 3 divided by 8. And of course, if you use your calculator to do this, you would see that it is 0.375. For question 2, you were asked the area of a rectangle is 20 centimeters squared. What is the perimeter of the rectangle? So we can use the facts that we know here. So if you do not know what we're doing here, please go and watch our lesson on what we did in calculating area of shapes, area and perimeter. So here, we know that the area is length times width. So, but we don't know what the width is. Okay, we don't know. So we know the length, we don't know what the width is. So if we can express this the way it should be. So 20, which is the area, this one here, is equal to something we know, which is the length times the width, which we do not know. Now, this is a simple equation that you can solve. Remember our previous lessons on how to solve simple equations like this. So our answer will be 20 divided by 5, which is 4. Now, once we put that information there, we can then put all the sides of the rectangle, write the lengths out. We know the opposite sides of the rectangle are equal. And then we can calculate our perimeter. Perimeter is to add all the sides. And then our answer is 18. The last question is the last digit of a multiple of 5 is either 0 or 5. Okay, so take note of that. Let's do some new learning for this lesson. To do integer division, we're going to think about our place value chart again. Now, the reason for this is for you to understand why we do what we do when we do short division. Okay, sometimes some people call it bus stop method of division. Okay, but I will call it short division. Now, it's important that you know this, because once we know what is going on, we don't really need to be using it all the time, because we know how to do the division and we know how to do our carry. Okay, so here is this one. So we have, if we were to represent this number on a place value chart, so we have 5,000s, 200s, 9 tenths, and 1 1. Okay, in the ones column. Now, when we do our division, we're actually looking for the number of groups of 4 that we can get. So, and we always start with the highest place value. So 5,000 divided by 4, we can only get 4 groups. Okay, 4 groups of thousands from 5,000. We write 1. Now we're left over with 1,000. Now we can do an exchange into the hundreds, because we're done with this now. We need to, do our division here. So we can exchange the 1,000 for the hundreds, and that will give us 10. Okay, 10 hundredths. Now, to reflect that, so it's important you pay attention to this, because once we know this, when we do our next calculations, we're not going to be using our place value chart. So to reflect that, we'll just write a 1 in front of the 2. Okay, so we reflect the exchange that we've done by writing the 1 in front of the 2. Now, we're going to be thinking, how many groups of 400s can we get from these 1200s? Because you can see we have 1200s here. It is 2. Okay, in fact 3. Yeah, we can get 3 groups. Now we write 3 there. So we do not have any hundreds anymore, because we've used it up. We now move into the tens column. Now, how many groups of 4 tens? How many groups of 4 tens can we get from 9 tenths? Okay, all right, which is 90. So we have 2 groups. Now we're going to write 2 there. All right, and we have a remainder. Okay, we have 1 tenth, which will go which we will exchange for the ones, and that will be there. Now next, we think, how many groups can we get from here? Groups of 4. We have just 1. So we write the 1 there to reflect that we've done the exchange from here. We've carried it over, and that gives us 2 groups. So we write 2, and our remainder is 3. Okay, I want to explain this again the way you would see some people do this sometimes. So now that you understand that what we do here is because we're doing an actual exchange and a carry, I want to explain it another way, so that, okay, you say, well, I get this. It's a quicker way to do it, but I know why we're doing what we're doing. So we have 5, 2, 9, 1. So the way we do it, the way you see people do it, is you say, so I'll use a different color. So 5 divided by 4. So 5 divided by 4, you can only get 4 from 5 only one time. So you write 1. What's the remainder? 1. You put the 1 in front of the 2. It's now 12. 12 divided by 4 is 3. All right, you're done with that. You move on here. 9 divided by 4 is 2. You have a remainder of 1. You put your 1 here. It's now 11. 11 divided by 4 is 2. And you have a remainder 3. So you see what we've done. We've done this really quickly. Now that you know why we're doing what we do, we don't need to think about the place value chart anymore. Okay, we just do it by, shifting, doing our carry to the left. To the right, as we divide along, starting with the highest place value. Okay, this is one way. Sorry, I have an itchy nose. Sorry. Okay, this is one way of representing our answer, but we can represent our answer as a fraction. Why? Because remember, we're dividing by 4. Okay, so our remainder can also be written as 3 divided by 4. Remember, we said you can write fraction as a division and division as a fraction. So we're still dividing by 4. So this one is what you did when you were in primary school. Here is how you could write it sometimes. So 3, the remainder 3 is still being divided by 4. And that is where we begin to have decimal division. Because what if we're asked to write our answer as a decimal? That is where our remainder comes in, because take note, a fraction will give you a decimal. So we'll put a decimal point, we put a 0, because we know that that 3 that was remaining in the ones column, we can exchange it into the tenths column, which will give us 30 tenths. Okay, but I'm not going to refer to it anymore, the place value chart, because you now know why we do it. So we'll just carry on. So we write a 3, which we carry from here. Remember, there was a remainder 3, and that remainder 3 gave us a fraction. So we're going to express that fraction as a decimal. So we write a 3 in front of the 0. Then it's now 30. So we just look at it as 30. So 30 divided by 4 is 7, because 7 times 4 is 28. Yeah, 7 times 4 is 28. So our remainder will be 2. So we put a 0 because we need to carry the 2 and write the 2 in front of the 0. Okay. Now 20 divided by 4 is 5. And that's our answer. Answer is 1322.75. So we can write this calculation in different ways. But how do we know how to write it? So sometimes we'll be asked to give any remainder that we have from our calculation as a fraction, or sometimes we'll be asked to give our answer as a decimal. So it depends on what you're asked to do. That will determine how you express your answer. But you now know how it works and why we do what we do. Okay, here is an example where we asked to work out 286 divided by 7. So let's use our method, and we're asked to write our answer in 2 decimal places. So it means when we have our remainder, we'll put a decimal, we'll put zeros, and then we'll carry on. So let's check it out. So you try it, and then before we review to see whether you get it right or you've made some mistakes, and then you learn from your mistakes. So pause the video and try it. Okay, assuming you've paused the video and you've tried it, here are the answers. Okay, so first, we cannot divide. You can see here, we cannot divide 2 by 7. All right, so remember, we always shift the digit we cannot use because we're doing an exchange to the lower place value columns as we go to the right. Remember, our highest place values in our number system is from the left, and then our lowest place value goes to the right. So we cannot divide 7 by 2, so we do our shift. So that's now 28. 28 divided by 7 is 4. Okay, we cannot, so now we'll move on to the 6. All right, now we cannot divide, so 7 divided by 6, all right, 6 divided by 7, we cannot do that, so we write a 0. Why do we write a 0? Because we need a place value there, all right, so that we can do the exchange of the 6, which is our remainder, to do our decimal division. Okay, so imagine you want to divide, remember this 6, so this is 100 tens and then ones. Okay, 100 tens and then ones. So you have 6 ones. You cannot get any group. All right, remember how we're thinking about this. You cannot get any group of 7 from 6 ones, so it's 0. There is no groups of ones from the 6 groups of 7 ones from 6 ones, so it's 0. So we're going to carry that over, so we have a remainder, and that will now be our decimal point. Now remember, you put the zeros there. So now that we've carried over our 6, that will now be 60. 60 divided by 7 is 8. So we write our 8 there. So remember, 7 times 8 is 56. All right. So our remainder is 4. So again, you put your zeros there because you need to use the carry that you've got from here. So our remainder is 4. So we'll put our 4 there. Then we do 40 divided by 7 is 5. Of course, 7 times 5 is 35. So we know our remainder is 5. So again, we'll put our 0 so that we'll do our carry. So our carry is 5. 50 divided by 7 is 7. We can stop here for now. We can keep doing this. Put 0, you do your carry, but we've been asked to do our decimal places to give our answer to 2 decimal places. We have done our calculation up to 3 decimal places. So that is enough for us to give our answer to 2 decimal places. Now, remember how to do your rounding. Okay. People do it differently. Some people do it like this. Okay. They look at the 2, parts of the numbers. So we know that we want to round 40.857. We write 40.85. We write the next number above that, which is 40.86. And then we know that that number should be closer to 40.86. But one way to think about it, which I have taught, so you can go and look at our lessons on rounding, is this. We want to round to 2 decimal places. So we are interested in this one. I need red. I like to use red. So we're interested in this number. We look one place to the right of that number we're interested in, because 2 decimal places is 1. This is 1. And this is 2 decimal places. So we look one place away. What we're checking whether that number is up to 5 or greater than 5. Now you can see it's greater than 5. So this digit here, the second decimal place which we're interested in, has to increase by 1 because this is greater than 5. So our number should be 40.86. All right, you've done some learning. It's time for you to practice what you've learned. So pause the video and answer question 1 in 3 minutes. You can take longer, you can take a shorter time. Okay? By practicing this, you get really good at this. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So mark your work and celebrate your success. So take note of what we've done here. You can see we cannot get any groups. So this is 100, 10s, and 1s. We cannot get any groups of 6 from 1. So we write 0 and we shift it here. Okay, that's now 14. From 14, we can get 2 groups of 6 because 14 divided by 6 is 2. 2 times 6 is 12. So our remainder is 2. And then we put it there. All right. So, and here are your answers. Okay. All right. Well done. If you got it wrong, you can go over it again and practice and practice and practice. All right. Pause the video and answer questions 2 and 3 in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are your answers. Let's discuss them. So here you were asked question 2. Mo is trying to work out 248 divided by 5. He says, I know the answer is not going to be a whole number. How does Mo know the answer is not going to be a whole number? Of course we know, because when you work this out, all right, you're told to write your answer in 3 different ways. So you can see it there. All right, writing your answers in 3 different ways. So this is the answer for question 2. So you can see you have a remainder 3. Now, the way we know it's not going to be a whole number is, did you remember our retrieval practice question where we looked at numbers that are multiples of 5? Those numbers end in 0 and 5. So we know straight away that it's going to have a remainder, because the multiple of a number, if the number were a multiple of 5, we should be able to divide the number by 5. Okay, so you can go and watch our video, watch the video about multiples again to really understand what we're talking about if you don't. Okay, question 3. Here is the answer. You ask, Teddy has worked out 176 divided by 4. And then what mistake has Teddy made? Okay, they're asking you what mistake Teddy has made. What is the correct answer? So the correct answer is 44. So the mistake she's made is, look, 1 divided by 4 is a naught. We cannot get group of 4 from 1. Okay, so we write a 0 and we shift it there. That should be a 1. So the mistake Teddy did is Teddy wrote a 3 there. It should be a 1. Okay, so 17, so that should be 17. 17 divided by 4 is 4. Okay, it's 4 because 4 times 4 is 16. So our remainder from the 17 will be 1. So that's now 16. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So it should be 44. Okay, pause the video and answer question 4 in 5 minutes. All right. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked really hard at this, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for question 4, you can see that you have these answers. So mark your work and celebrate your success. So you were asked to work out this division and give your answers as decimals. All right. Some of them have this decimals, some of them don't. Okay, so by now you should know how to do that. When you get to the remainder portion, okay, so let's just do this real quick. For the sake of time, I'm not going to spend too much time. So we'll have this, sorry. So we'll have this. So we have 676. We're dividing by 5. All right, 6 divided by 5 is 1. Our remainder is 1. 17 divided by 5 is 3. All right, 5 times 3 is 15. So now our remainder from the 17 is 2. 26 is now 26. 26 divided by 5 is 5. All right. So we know this is the last digit that we have from the integers, the whole number. So we're going to have decimal. Yeah. We know our remainder is 1. So we put 0 there. Remember, you can go as many decimal places as you want. So that's 1. So we don't need to go anymore because we can see that 10 divided by 5 is 2. So it's 135.2. Okay. Let's do some new learning. If we ask sometimes to work out some calculations, we can use the knowledge that we have of numbers to actually break down the calculations into different segments. So for example, 144 divided by 12 can be done in 2 stages. So we can say 144 divided by 4, and then whatever answer we get from that, we can then do that answer divided by 3. Okay. So 144, because we can then divide this group into 3 more groups. Okay. And 144 divided by, 444 divided by 12 can be written as 444 divided by 4 divided by 3. So sometimes if you have very large numbers, you can break the calculations down into different parts like this to get towards the end of your answer. Okay. And that is 37. Okay, so someone doing this calculation would have thought, oh, this is too big. I cannot do the answer. I cannot work this out. But you can actually work it out by thinking, okay, 444 divided by 12, I can split the 12 into 2 separate calculations. And whatever answer I get, I can then do it for the second stage of the calculation. All right. It's now time for you to pause the video and practice. So pause the video and answer questions 5, 6, and 7 in 5 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So question 5, you were asked, Work out 85 divided by 7. Give your answer to 3 decimal places. Of course, that's the answer. So by now, you know how to do your calculations, okay? And then write this as a decimal to 3 decimal places, which is that one there. You now know how to write numbers to the required number of decimal places you asked to write them in. Question 6. To divide a number by 12, you can divide by 6, then divide by 2. So use this method to work this out. So again, to use this method to do this, you could do 3, 4, 5. You do your short division, okay, or your bus stop division, the way some people call it. You do this divided by 6, and whatever answer you get, you divide that answer by 2. And then what other pair of one-digit numbers could be used instead of 6 and 2? Of course, we can use 3 and 4. Yeah, remember our example which we did earlier. Or you could even do the calculation the other way around. So you could do 2 first before you divide by 6. Then work out these divisions, state which strategy you used. So this one, someone could do divide by 7 and then divide by 7 again. Divide by 2. Yeah. So someone could do divide by 7 and then divide by 2. Here, someone could do divide by 3 and then divide by 4, or divide by 2 and then divide by 6. Okay. Pause the video and answer questions 8 and 9 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So question 8, you will ask, solve the equations. Okay, so by now you should know how to solve equations like this. If you do not know, please go and watch our very early lessons on solving equations. Okay, so here you divide 167 by 4. Okay, you can see you're now required to use 2 skills: your skill of knowing how to solve equation and your skill of knowing how to do division of integers, okay, using our formal written method. This one is the same thing, okay? So you need to know how to solve equation and how to do your division of integers using the formal written method that we've been learning. Question 9. 4 identical rectangles are connected to form a larger rectangle. The total area of the large rectangle is this, okay? That's the total area. You're asked to find the perimeter of the larger rectangle. All right. So we know the total area of the larger rectangle is this. So we know this one is 14. So we're going to have to do a little bit of writing here. This is 14 as well. Okay. Now we know that 14 add 14 is 28. So we know this whole length here is 28. So here is 28 centimeter. We know that the area is length times width. So we can write this as 924 is equal to the width, which is, we don't know the length, times 28. Now, we need to do our division. So we're going to have to do 924 divided by 28. Somebody might think, I want to do this in 2 different ways. So you've got to be thinking, okay, what numbers would I multiply to get 28? We know is 4 times 7. So 4 times 7 is 28. So someone could do this and say, well, let me do 924 divided by 7 first, and then I will divide my answer. So we're looking for the length, because once we know the length will be the whole lot here. We know this one will obviously be 28 as well. So once we know the length, then we can find the perimeter, because we know these 2 sides will be the same. So to do this divided by 28, we can split it into 2 parts. So first we divide by 7 and then we'll divide by 4. So 9 divided by 7 is 1. Our remainder is 2. 22 divided by 7 is 3, because 3 times 7 is 21. So our remainder is 1. So 14 divided by 7 is 2. All right. Now we have 132. So we're going to do 132 divided by 4. So we cannot divide, we cannot, get a group of 4 from the 1. So it's a 0. We shift our 1 over there. It's now 13. 13 divided by 4 is 3, because 3 times 4 is 12. And of course, we have a remainder of 1. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3. So this length here is 33. So, and this one will have to be 33 as well. So now that we know that's 33, that's 28. So to find the perimeter, we've been asked to find the perimeter of the larger rectangle. So our answer will be 28 plus 28, which is 56, plus 33 plus 33. Okay? So this is 56 plus 66. So 56 plus 66. 6 add 6 is 12. So write 2 will carry 1. 5 add 6 is 11. Plus the 1 we carried is 12. And that's why we got 122. Okay. That brings us to the end of our lesson. So what have we learned so far? We have learned that to do integer, remember we have been learning how to use formal methods to divide integers. You can do your integer division by thinking about first what is really going on when you do your carry. We did that by thinking about our place value chart. But once you understand that, you know that you start to do your decimal, you start to do your integer division. And then when you have a remainder, you know that is where your decimal part of the calculation starts. So you put your decimal point, you put zeros to start to use the remainder and to do your calculation. Well done for sticking around and for working really hard to understand this topic, which could be challenging to some students. Until next time, take good care of yourself and bye-bye.